Commander Raphael Reyes stood on the polished deck of the colony's main plaza as a hush fell over the gathered crowd. It was the height of the Galactic Festival, a day when laughter and celebration filled every corner of human space. But no one expected the big surprise that the prank squad had in store. Reyes watched as a team of giggling technicians rolled out a large wrapped pod on a hover platform. Colorful ribbons fluttered around its edges. The pranksters claimed it was a gift for the commander, though no one knew what lay inside. The crowd cheered as Reyes stepped forward, curious and amused. With a dramatic flourish, the head prankster tapped a control pad. The ribbons snapped away, and the pod's cover slid open. A soft, blue glow filled the plaza. Then a young woman emerged. She was unlike any human. They saw her pale lavender skin and small, pointed ears, set against long hair that shimmered in the light. She wore a simple, white robe that fell to her ankles. Her bright green eyes met Reyes. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some officers drew handguns. The pranksters offered quick explanations. She's an alien princess. A gift. A joke. But the laughter died fast when the newcomer raised a gentle hand. Her voice was calm and musical. "Please," she said, "I mean no harm." Reyes paused. He studied the tall, graceful figure. Something in her calm eyes spoke of nobility and strength. The crowd quieted, unsure whether to cheer or to retreat. The colonists' festival lights reflected in her serene gaze. "Identify yourself," Reyes said, his voice steady. "I am Princess Lyra of Arian," she replied. "My home world was lost to war. My father sent me away for safety. I never meant to alarm anyone." Reyes frowned. He had heard stories of Arian, an ancient world rumored to be destroyed by the Galactic Empire decades ago. If she truly was its princess, then her presence here was no small matter. The pranksters exchanged worried glances. Reyes stepped back and motioned for security to lower their weapons. "Take her to my quarters," he ordered. "Treat her with respect." The officers bowed and led Lyra away, as the crowd parted in silence. Murmurs spread. A real alien princess. Is this part of the show? What will happen now? Reyes followed at a respectful distance. His mind raced. A prank had revealed something far bigger than anyone expected. Lyra walked beside him with quiet dignity. She glanced at the festival lights through the glass corridors. "This world is very different from Arian," she said softly. "I have much to learn." Reyes nodded. "You will have time," he answered. "But first, I must understand why you are here." Lyra turned to him, hope in her gentle smile. "I was sent to stay safe," she said. "And now I wish to find a new life, one not bound by a throne." Reyes considered her words as they reached his private study. The prank that began as a joke had unlocked a door to the unknown. In that moment, he knew life on the colony would never be the same. Lyra stood in the soft glow of Commander Reyes's quarters. The room was spacious, with smooth white walls, and a view of the colony's gardens below. Reyes closed the door behind them and turned to face her. "Tell me about Arian," he said, voice gentle but firm. Lyra took a steady breath. "Arian was my home planet," she began. "It was a world of green seas and violet trees. My father ruled as king. I grew up in a palace full of light and laughter." She paused, remembering. But then the Empire came. They claimed our world was a threat. They bombed our cities. My people fought bravely, but we lost. Reyes listened, eyes thoughtful. He motioned to a low seating area. "Please, sit." Lyra sank onto one of the soft chairs. Her posture remained straight and regal. Reyes sat across from her, studying her calm face. "How did you survive?" he asked. "My father sent me away," Lyra said, her voice soft. "He knew I was in danger. The Empire spies searched for me. They wanted to capture the princess. So they put me in a secret pod and sent me through a safe gate to this colony." Her green eyes met his. "I did not know where I would go. I only knew I must live." Reyes felt a pull in his chest. He remembered losing his own family in the starstorm years ago. He reached out, placing a hand near hers but not touching. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. Lyra nodded, accepting his sympathy. "I do not blame your people," she said. "The prank was meant to frighten, but I see human hearts can be kind." Reyes offered a small smile. "Humans can surprise you," he said. "We celebrate your arrival now, not mock it." He leaned forward. "Your rank and title. Does the colony accept that?" Lyra looked away. "My royal status means little here," she said. "Arian no longer exists. I have no kingdom to return to." She looked back. "I want a new life. A life of my own choice." Reyes nodded. "Then you shall have it," he promised. "But first, you need a place to stay and to learn our ways." Over the next hour, he guided Lyra through colony rules. He showed her the data pad for basic customs, how to speak to officials, where to eat, and how to request supplies. She listened closely, repeating each rule in her soft voice. When they finished, Reyes stood and offered his hand. "Come," he said. "I will introduce you to the council tomorrow. They need to know who you are and who you wish to become." Lyra rose gracefully, taking his hand. "Thank you, Commander," she said. That night, Lyra slept in a room by the study. Reyes watched her door close and sighed softly. He had offered her safety, but he wondered what challenges lay ahead. Beyond the windows, the colony's lights shone against the dark sky. The prank that brought Lyra here had changed both their lives. And now, a princess without a planet would begin her journey as a stranger in a new world. But Reyes was determined to help her find her place, no longer as a joke, but as a valued member of the human family. Commander Reyes stood before the colony council the next morning. The chamber was bright, with tall windows showing the sky beyond. Council members, humans of many worlds, sat in a semicircle. At their center sat Governor Hayes, a stern woman with silver hair. "Thank you, Commander," Hayes said. "Explain again who this guest is." Reyes bowed slightly. "Council, this is Princess Lyra of Arian," he announced. "She arrived last night by unexpected means. Her homeworld was destroyed, and she seeks refuge." Murmurs spread among the council. Some leaned forward, curious. Others frowned. One counselor, Jilan, spoke up. "Commander, are we to believe a princess from a lost planet simply appears here as a prank?" Lyra stepped forward, voice clear. "I understand your doubt," she said, "but it is true. My father sent me through a secret gate to save my life. I have no throne now, only my wish for a new start." Counselor Jilan narrowed his eyes. "And what start is that?" Lyra held her ground. "I wish to live freely. I want to learn your ways. I wish to help this colony." Hayes raised an eyebrow. "Help? In what way?" Lyra paused. "On Arian, I learned strategy and diplomacy. I can share ideas on trade routes, resource management, and peacekeeping." She spoke without pride, simple and honest. Reyes nodded. "She shows great wisdom." Counselor Mira, a younger woman, leaned forward. "She rescued workers from a fire yesterday," Mira said. "She has courage, too." Jilan scoffed. "One act does not make a leader." Lyra met his gaze calmly. "On Arian, courage came from service, not from power. I served my people until the end." Hayes tapped a gavel. "We will consider her request. For now, she may stay under Commander Rice's protection. She will follow our laws." Lyra bowed. "Thank you, Governor." Reyes guided Lyra out of the chamber into the hallway. "Well done," he said. "You spoke well." Lyra's green eyes shone. "I practiced speaking your language last night," she said with a small smile. Reyes offered his arm, and they walked toward the mess hall. "Let's get you something to eat. Human food can be surprising." At the mess hall, Lyra hesitated before the selection of dishes. She chose a simple vegetable stew. She took a small spoonful and tasted. Her eyebrows rose. "Delicious," she said softly. Reyes chuckled. Wait till you try our pastries. Lyra laughed, a light, musical sound. For the first time, Reyes felt the fear of last night fade. That afternoon, Lyra toured the colony's resource center with Reyes. She watched machines sorting minerals and recycling water. She asked questions about efficiency and output. Workers explained the processes, and Lyra offered suggestions based on Arian's methods. Some workers nodded in approval. Others looked skeptical but curious. As the sun set, Lyra and Reyes walked on a balcony overlooking the main plaza. Festival lights still hung from poles. The air was calm. Today was a good day, Reyes said. Lyra turned to him. It was. I feel more at home. Reyes studied her face. Tomorrow, I will introduce you to the orphan program. Lyra's eyes softened. Thank you, she said. I hope to help there too. Reyes nodded. He knew Lyra's journey was just beginning. A princess turned refugee was finding her place. Part diplomat, part guardian, and soon, perhaps part mother by choice. Early the next morning, Lyra and Commander Reyes walked through the colony's training yard. Rows of humans practiced combat drills with laser rifles and protective gear. The air smelled of ozone and freshly oiled metal. Lyra watched quietly. Would you like to try? Reyes asked, offering her a training rifle. Lyra hesitated. I have not held such a weapon, she admitted. Reyes nodded and showed her how to position her hands on the rifle. He guided her stance, feet shoulder-width apart. Lyra's posture was graceful but slightly tense. Reyes smiled reassuringly. Just breathe and follow my count, he said. He counted. 1, 2, 3. On 3, Lyra fired. The laser beam lit the target a short distance away. It left a tiny burn mark on the metal plate. Lyra's eyes widened. She fired again, more confidently. Each shot hit closer to the center. The soldiers nearby paused their drills to watch. When the final shot struck dead center, the soldiers cheered. Reyes laughed and clapped. Well done. Lyra blushed under her pale skin. I did not know I had such aim, she said softly. A drill sergeant approached. Princess, that was impressive, he said with respect. If you wish, you can train more. Lyra shook her head. I will learn, but I prefer diplomacy and strategy. The sergeant nodded. Your choice, Mom. He saluted and returned to his duties. Reyes and Lyra walked toward the command center in the heart of the yard. Holographic maps floated above a table. A small team of officers studied them. Reyes tapped the map of nearby trade routes. These supply lines keep our colony alive, he explained. Lyra leaned forward. On Arian, we used orbital relays to speed cargo ships. It cut travel time in half. An officer frowned. We don't have that tech. Lyra smiled. Perhaps we can adapt parts of it. I can help design a smaller relay station. Reyes watched the officer's expression soften. Lyra's ideas were practical and clear. The officers began to ask questions. After the meeting, they strolled through the botanical gardens. Strange alien flowers bloomed under glass domes. Lyra paused by a violet orchid. She touched its petal carefully. It reminds me of my home, she said softly. Reyes glanced at her. You miss Arian. Lyra nodded. Sometimes I do, but I also feel hope here. They reached a fountain at the garden center. Water danced in colored lights. Children played nearby, laughing. Lyra watched them. Those children, she said, they remind me of my people's future. Reyes looked at her. You care deeply. Lyra turned to him. I want to help them grow, learn, and live in peace. That is why I wish to adopt a child. Reyes stopped. You spoke to the orphan center. Lyra smiled. Yes, they told me about children waiting for homes. Reyes nodded. Tomorrow, we will visit them. Lyra's eyes lit up. Thank you, Commander. As they left the gardens, the sun dipped below the domed horizon. The promise of new paths and new family bonds lay before Lyra and the colony. a princess finding her purpose, and a human ready to stand by her side. Early the next morning, Lyra and Commander Reyes walked through the colony's training yard. Rows of humans practiced combat drills with laser rifles and protective gear. The air smelled of ozone and freshly oiled metal. Lyra watched quietly. "Would you like to try?" Reyes asked, offering her a training rifle. Lyra hesitated. "I have not held such a weapon," she admitted. Reyes nodded and showed her how to position her hands on the rifle. He guided her stance, feet shoulder-width apart. Lyra's posture was graceful but slightly tense. Reyes smiled reassuringly. "Just breathe and follow my count," he said. He counted. 1, 2, 3. On 3, Lyra fired. The laser beam lit the target a short distance away. It left a tiny burn mark on the metal plate. Lyra's eyes widened. She fired again, more confidently. Each shot hit closer to the center. The soldiers nearby paused their drills to watch. When the final shot struck dead center, the soldiers cheered. Reyes laughed and clapped. "Well done." Lyra blushed under her pale skin. "I did not know I had such aim," she said softly. A drill sergeant approached. "Princess, that was impressive," he said with respect. "If you wish, you can train more." Lyra shook her head. "I will learn, but I prefer diplomacy and strategy." The sergeant nodded. "Your choice, Mom." He saluted and returned to his duties. Reyes and Lyra walked toward the command center in the heart of the yard. Holographic maps floated above a table. A small team of officers studied them. Reyes tapped the map of nearby trade routes. "These supply lines keep our colony alive," he explained. Lyra leaned forward. "On Arian, we used orbital relays to speed cargo ships. It cut travel time in half." An officer frowned. "We don't have that tech." Lyra smiled. "Perhaps we can adapt parts of it. I can help design a smaller relay station." Reyes watched the officer's expression soften. Lyra's ideas were practical and clear. The officers began to ask questions. After the meeting, they strolled through the botanical gardens. Strange alien flowers bloomed under glass domes. Lyra paused by a violet orchid. She touched its petal carefully. "It reminds me of my home," she said softly. Reyes glanced at her. "You miss Arian." Lyra nodded. "Sometimes I do, but I also feel hope here." They reached a fountain at the garden center. Water danced in colored lights. Children played nearby, laughing. Lyra watched them. "Those children," she said, "they remind me of my people's future." Reyes looked at her. "You care deeply." Lyra turned to him. "I want to help them grow, learn, and live in peace. That is why I wish to adopt a child." Reyes stopped. "You spoke to the orphan center." Lyra smiled. "Yes, they told me about children waiting for homes." Reyes nodded. "Tomorrow, we will visit them." Lyra's eyes lit up. "Thank you, Commander." As they left the gardens, the sun dipped below the domed horizon. The promise of new paths and new family bonds lay before Lyra and the colony, a princess finding her purpose, and a human ready to stand by her side. Commander Reyes arrived at the colony's orphan center with Lyra the next morning. The building was bright and warm. Children laughed in the courtyard, chasing small hover toys. Lyra's green eyes softened as she watched them. A kind woman named Jane greeted them. "Princess Lyra," she said, bowing slightly. "These are the children who need a home." She led them inside. The main hall was filled with small beds and shelves of toys. Children of different ages played quietly or read books. Lyra knelt beside a low table where a shy toddler with soft brown curls sat coloring a picture. Reyes watched as Lyra spoke gently. "Hello," Lyra said in her calm voice. "What is your name?" The toddler looked up, eyes wide. "Mara," she whispered. Lyra smiled. "Mara, that is a beautiful name." She pointed to the drawing. "Did you draw that?" Mara nodded and held up the picture. It showed a house under a bright sun. The sun had many colors. Lyra's face lit up. "It is lovely. You have a gift." Mara grinned and hugged her crayons. Lyra stood and turned to Reyes. "I feel a bond with her," she said softly. "She reminds me of my sister, who loved to color." Reyes nodded. "She seems to like you." They walked together through rows of children. Lyra spoke briefly with older kids, asking their names and wishes. Some wished for families, others wished for toys or books. Lyra listened to each with respect. After meeting several children, Lyra paused in the courtyard as Mara tugged her robe. Mara pointed at Lyra's hand and said, "Hold." The toddler reached out, and Lyra held her small hand gently. Mara smiled and led Lyra to a bench. Lyra sat, and Mara climbed onto her lap. Lyra stroked her hair. Ray stood nearby, watching with pride. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. Lyra looked at Mara, whose big eyes shone with trust. "Yes," Lyra answered. "I choose her." Jane approached with forms. "If you wish to adopt, please sign here and here." She handed Lyra a datapad. Lyra reviewed the forms. Her finger hovered over the signature spot. She glanced at Reyes. He gave her an encouraging nod. Lyra tapped her name. A soft beep confirmed the completion. The center cheered lightly. Children clapped, and some hugged each other. Mara waved her tiny hand. Lyra stood, holding Mara close. Reyes stepped forward. "Mara, welcome to your new family," he said. He placed a gentle hand on Lyra's shoulder. Lyra smiled at him, and then at Mara. "I promise to care for you always," she said to the toddler. Mara giggled and reached up to touch Lyra's face. That evening, Lyra and Reyes walked back to the command center. Lyra carried Mara in her arms, and Mara held a small stuffed star, a gift from the center. "Thank you for helping me," Lyra said to Reyes. Reyes shrugged. "It was your choice," he replied. He looked at Lyra and Mara as they passed under the glowing domes. "You made a mother's first step." Lyra looked down at Mara, whose eyelids were growing heavy. "Yes," Lyra said softly, "and I look forward to every step after." They continued through the quiet corridors, a new family forging its path under the colony's stars. Commander Reyes entered the command center to find Lyra cradling Mara in a soft sling. The toddler blinked sleepily but reached out to touch Lyra's cheek. Lyra smiled gently and then turned to Reyes. "They settled quickly," she said. "She slept through dinner." Reyes nodded. Orphans often adjust faster with a loving home. He approached a holographic display showing incoming supply ships. "We have a small problem. A freighter from Terra Prime will arrive late. Supplies may run low." Lyra set Mara on a cushion nearby. The toddler grasped a small toy star and began to play. Lyra joined Reyes by the display. "What can we do?" she asked. Reyes tapped the map. "We could reroute emergency transports from Mars colony. But that will raise costs and delay other colonies." Lyra studied the routes. "On Arian, we had local farms that grew fast food crops under domed gardens," she said. "We used hydroponic systems to grow vegetables in days." Reyes raised an eyebrow. "We have hydroponics here, but we use them only for research." Lyra's eyes brightened. "Let's expand them. We can convert one greenhouse for fast crops. I can guide the engineers." Reyes smiled. "Good idea. I'll order the team now." Lyra placed a gentle hand on Reyes's arm. "I'm happy to help." Within minutes, a small group of engineers followed Lyra to the botanical greenhouse. They wore utility suits and held datapads. Lyra led them to the hydroponic section. She pointed to the empty troughs. "These can grow microgreens in 3 days," she explained. "We need to adjust nutrient levels and light cycles." An engineer, Sora, nodded. "We can reprogram the lights and pumps." Lyra showed the formulas she learned on Arian. Sora tapped settings on her datapad. "Adjusting now," she said. Lyra smiled at Reyes. "This will help feed the colony until the freighter arrives." Reyes watched as engineers worked. Young Mara crawled toward a low shelf of tools. Lyra quickly scooped her up. She brushed a curl from the toddler's forehead. Reyes cleared his throat. Princess, Lyra, your daughter is adorable. Lyra laughed softly. Thank you. She pressed Mara to her chest. Mara, meet the greenhouse. Mara giggled. Lyra held her close as they watched the engineers. Later that afternoon, Lyra and Mara walked in the greenhouse under glowing panels. Rows of seedlings sprouted in water. Lyra knelt and touched a tiny leaf. These will be ready soon, she said. Mara tried to mimic her and touched a leaf gently. Lyra's face warmed with pride. You will eat these, Mara. Reyes entered, carrying 2 small plates of stew. Dinner is ready, he announced. Lyra rose, balancing Mara on her hip. Thank you, Commander. They sat at a simple table by a window. Mara nibbled on soft bread. Lyra fed her small pieces, humming a lullaby from Arion. Reyes watched them, silent but content. As the sun set, the hydroponic trays glowed softly. Lyra looked at the young green leaves, and then at Mara. One small leaf can feed many, she said. One small love can heal many hearts. Reyes reached across the table and took her hand. Your love is our strength. Lyra smiled, Mara asleep in her arms. Under the colony's domed sky, a princess turned mother and a commander found a new purpose together. Commander Reyes stood at the edge of the colony's meditation garden early next morning. Mist curled around the statues, and lanterns glowed softly. Lyra approached, holding Mara's hand. Mara yawned and clung to Lyra's robe. Good morning, Reyes said quietly. Good morning, Lyra replied. She guided Mara to a low bench beside a koi pond. The fish glided through the clear water. Lyra set Mara gently on the bench cushion and sat beside her. Reyes joined them. The council has a new request, he said. They want you to address the Traders' Guild tomorrow. Lyra's eyes widened. Me. Reyes nodded. They trust your ideas. They want your help to expand fair trade with nearby systems. Lyra glanced at Mara, who watched the fish. I will do my best. Reyes smiled. I know you will. He stepped back to let them rest. Later, Lyra prepared for her address. She reviewed notes on her datapad in her private study as Mara napped in a cradle nearby. Her soft voice read aloud simple phrases about trade routes, fair taxes, and shared resources. When evening came, Reyes escorted Lyra and Mara to the trade hall. The hall was large, with banners hanging from the ceiling. Merchants from many worlds filled the seats. They whispered among themselves and watched the young princess. Reyes led Lyra to a podium. Council and guild members, he began. Princess Lyra will speak on fair trade. She speaks as someone who lost her world, but also as someone who believes in peace through commerce. Lyra stepped forward, holding her head high. She took a breath and spoke in clear, simple words. Friends of the colony, she began. I stand before you not as a ruler seeking power, but as someone who learned the value of cooperation. On Arion, we traded knowledge and goods with neighbors. This built trust that kept our world strong. Her green eyes scanned the room. I know how it feels to lose everything. But I also know hope when neighbors share what they have. Fair trade can feed our families, build new communities, and heal old wounds. Merchants listened in silence. Lyra continued, I propose a network of small depots on each road. Each depot will handle goods fairly, charge modest fees, and share profits with local people. This will lower prices and help poor colonies grow. A murmur spread. One merchant, Kellen, raised his hand. Princess, what of risk? Pirates attack our convoys. Lyra nodded. We can pool resources for convoy escorts. Each guild member contributes ships. In return, we share safe passage and reduced fees. Together, we are stronger. Reyes watched as nods appeared among the merchants. Voices rose in agreement. Kellen spoke again. I support this plan. Soon, others joined. After the session, merchants approached Lyra with questions. She answered each kindly. Mara slept in her arms, safe and warm. Rais guided Lyra back to the garden. Lanterns reflected on the pond. Lyra held Mara close. "You were wonderful," Rais said softly. Lyra smiled tiredly. "I did it for her," she whispered, stroking Mara's hair. Rais placed a hand on her shoulder. "Tomorrow, we begin building the depots." Lyra nodded. "And I will help lead." Under the garden's gentle lights, a princess-turned-diplomat found her voice, and a commander stood beside her, proud of the mother she had become. Commander Rais arrived at the construction site just as the first depot's frame was laid. Steel beams formed a simple rectangular shell. Engineers and workers bustled, carrying tools and materials. Lyra stood beside him, Mara asleep in her sling. "Good morning," Rais said. "Good morning," Lyra replied. She glanced at the depot. "They work quickly." Rais smiled. "Your plan inspired them." Lyra nodded, then looked down at Mara. The toddler stirred and reached for a beam. Lyra lifted her higher, showing the building. "See, Mara. This will help many families." Mara gurgled and tapped Lyra's chest. Lyra laughed softly. Rais led Lyra to a group of engineers. "Princess, we need your guidance on the layout," said Sora, holding a holopad. "Where should we place the storage bays and the meeting hall?" Lyra studied the holopad. She tapped a spot near the entrance. "Storage here is best for quick loading. The meeting hall should be in the center, so all voices are heard equally." Sora made notes. "Understood." Lyra pointed to a shaded corner. "Add a small play area for children," she said. "A depot can be a safe space for families traveling." The engineers exchanged glances and smiled. "Excellent idea," said one. As they worked, Lyra walked among the beams, explaining each detail. Rais followed, watching her confidence grow. Mara's eyes widened at the bright metal and moving cranes. By midday, most of the frames stood complete. Workers paused for lunch. Rais found Lyra by a stack of metal panels. "You've done well," he said. Lyra wiped her brow. "It feels good to build something real," she said. "To help." Rais handed her a water flask. She sipped and then knelt to adjust Mara's blanket. Mara reached out and touched Lyra's face, then leaned close and fell asleep again. Rais watched them. "Seeing you with her, I understand why you chose this path." Lyra looked at Rais, soft gratitude in her eyes. "She gave me a new reason to live." They stood quietly until a supervisor called Lyra. A supply drone arrived, carrying crates of equipment. Lyra guided workers on where to unload and store each crate. She moved with calm authority. As the sun dipped low, the depot's walls rose halfway. Lyra and Rais walked to the center, where Sora displayed the progress on her datapad. "We will finish the roof by tomorrow night," Sora said. Lyra nodded. "Perfect." She looked at Rais. "Thank you for trusting me." Rais placed a hand on her back. "Your trust in people did this." They watched the last light reflect off the steel beams. Lyra held Mara and hummed the lullaby of Arion. The colony's new depot began to take shape, just like Lyra's new life, built on hope, care, and unity. Under the fading sky, Mother, Princess, and Commander shared a moment of quiet pride, knowing their work would change lives across the stars. Early the next morning, Lyra and Commander Rais returned to the depot to welcome the first supply convoy. 3 small freighters hovered above the landing pad, their bays open. Workers hurried to unload crates of grain, tools, and medical kits. Lyra stood beside Rais, Mara tucked safely on her hip. "This is the moment of truth," Rais said softly. Lyra nodded, brushing a curl from Mara's face. "It will work," she answered, her voice steady. As the workers moved supplies into the storage bays, Lyra checked the inventory list on her datapad. Each item matched the list she had helped create. A smile spread across her face. "It's perfect," she said. Rais placed a hand on her shoulder. "You made this happen." Lyra returned his smile. She then guided the workers to stack crates in neat rows. Mara watched, her green eyes wide with wonder. That night, the depot was quiet. Metal walls glowed under soft lights. Lyra tucked Mara into a small cot by the entrance. The toddler yawned and wrapped tiny arms around her new mother's neck. "Sweet dreams, Mara," Lyra whispered, kissing her forehead. Lyra left Mara sleeping and walked with Rise to the control room at the depot's rear. Rise tapped his datapad. "All systems normal," he said. "We can take a break." Suddenly, an alarm sounded. Red lights pulsed. Lyra's heart raced. "What is it?" she asked. Rise checked the screen. "Someone is trying to force the side door." Lyra grabbed a flashlight. Rise drew his sidearm. They moved down the corridor toward the noise. At the side door, two figures in dark cloaks tried to break the lock. Metal cracked under their tools. Lyra stepped forward. "Stop," she called. The intruders froze. One turned and lunged for a crate. Rise raised his weapon, hands in the air. Lyra raised her hand too. "Leave now, and no one gets hurt," she said firmly. The cloaked pair hesitated. They saw a small security drone hover above, lights flashing. They dropped their tools and ran into the night. Lyra exhaled and turned to Rise. "They came for our supplies," she said. Rise nodded. "We'll add extra locks and patrols," he said. "But you were brave." Lyra knelt and turned on her flashlight toward the broken lock. She examined it. "A bolt here could stop forced entry," she said, pointing. "And we need more cameras." She mapped the changes on her datapad. "I will help reinforce security." Rise watched her confidence. He guided her back to the control room. She updated the system and ordered engineers to strengthen doors and install cameras. All night, they worked together. At dawn, the depot stood safer than before. Lyra carried Mara, who clapped her hands at the bright morning. Workers gathered around Lyra, thanking her for saving their supplies. Rise joined them and addressed the group. "Thanks to Lyra's quick thinking, we protected our food and medicine. We are stronger as a family and as a colony." Lyra looked at Mara and then at the team. "Together, we keep each other safe," she said simply. The workers cheered. Lyra hugged Mara, her heart full. In that moment, the princess-turned-mother proved that love and courage could guard a world and a family against any threat. The sun rose gently over the colony, casting golden light across the buildings and gardens. The new depot stood tall and complete, its steel walls shining in the morning sun. Flags of the colony fluttered in the breeze, and people gathered for the official opening ceremony. Lyra stood near the front, wearing a simple but elegant white dress. She held Mara in her arms, the child dressed in a tiny blue robe that matched her mother's eyes. Commander Reyes stood beside them, his uniform neat and proud. Governor Hayes stepped onto the stage and spoke to the crowd. "Today, we open not just a building, but a symbol of unity," she said. "This depot is proof of what we can do when we trust each other." She looked at Lyra, and it would not have been possible without Princess Lyra. The crowd clapped loudly. Lyra's cheeks turned pink, but she stepped forward with grace. Mara clapped too, giggling with joy. Lyra looked out at the crowd. "Thank you," she said. "When I arrived, I was seen as a joke, a prank. But you gave me a chance to be more than a lost princess. You have allowed me to become something far more important, a mother, a helper, and a part of your family." She looked at Mara and smiled. "This child gave me strength, and all of you gave me a new home. I will serve this colony with my heart." The crowd cheered again. Some had tears in their eyes. Even Rise looked away for a moment, hiding the emotion on his face. After the ceremony, Lyra walked with Reyes through the gardens. Mara walked beside them now, holding both their hands. The grass felt soft under their feet. The trees swayed gently, and birds chirped above. "I never imagined this life," Lyra said softly. Reyes smiled. "Neither did I. But I'm glad it happened." Mara suddenly pointed at the sky. A small transport ship passed overhead. She looked up and asked, "Mama, are there more stars?" Lyra knelt and kissed her head. "Yes, sweet one, many more. And one day we'll show them to you." Reyes nodded. "She has your spirit." Lyra looked at him with warm eyes. "And she has your strength." They reached the bench near the fountain. Lyra sat with Mara on her lap, and Reyes sat beside them. For a moment, there was only peace, the sound of water, the laughter of a child, and the soft rustling of leaves. Lyra leaned her head on Reyes's shoulder. "Thank you for believing in me." Reyes looked at her. "You showed us who you really are, and we're better because of it." As the sun rose higher, the colony moved forward with hope. A princess no longer searching for a throne had found something greater, a family, a purpose, and a future built by her own choice. And under that quiet sky, the human and the alien sat side by side, not by fate, but by love.